The following are some of the most beloved video games ever made, but behind the praise, accolades, and awards lie secrets the developers might prefer you never knew. From troubled development cycles to behind-the-scenes controversies, here are the dark secrets behind 20 iconic video games. Welcome back to GameRx, and today we're diving deep into the unknown and hidden stories you might be unaware of. Strap those harnesses tight, because the truth might change the way you look at some of these iconic titles. Skyrim is a cultural icon, but Bethesda's attempt to monetize the modding community backfired spectacularly. In 2015, they launched a paid mod system on Steam, which was met with intense backlash from fans who had kept the game alive with free mods for years. The uproar was so severe that Bethesda quickly pulled the plug, but the damage was already done. Many modders felt betrayed, and it sparked debate about corporate ownership over community-created content. The whole episode exposed tensions between profit and passion in gaming. Naughty Dog is often hailed as the gold standard of storytelling, but it does come at a cost. During the development of The Last of Us, reports emerged of brutal crunch, with employees clocking in excessive hours for months on end. The studio had a reputation for perfectionism, with entire animations and cutscenes being reworked multiple times. Animators and QA testers, in particular, reported high turnover and emotional exhaustion. While the final product became a masterpiece, some of the team members behind it left the industry entirely, burned out by the relentless grind required to meet Naughty Dog's standards. Bloodborne delivered a haunting, atmospheric journey into cosmic horror, but data miners and modders have since uncovered a treasure trove of cut content, unused enemies, weapons, entire NPC storylines, and even unfinished levels suggest that large portions of the game were cut for time or technical reasons. One of the most intriguing discoveries was the Great One Beast, a massive creature found deep in the game files that never made it into the final product. Players believe Bloodborne was released in a semi-incomplete state due to tight Sony deadlines. Despite its brilliance, it's likely we never got the full vision Hidetaka Miyazaki intended, not to mention a sequel or even an official PC port. While The Witcher 3 is considered one of the greatest RPGs of all time, its development came at a steep cost. CD Projekt Red was celebrated for its passion, but that passion came with relentless crunch. Developers reported working 6 days a week for months, with 12 to 16-hour days in the final stretch. Some staff members described a toxic cycle of burnout and turnover. To make matters worse, CDPR originally offered no overtime compensation. The backlash led to major industry discussions around labor practices, and even after its release, issues like bugs and performance problems on consoles required months of patching. As much as the game is revered, it left many scars behind the scenes. Fallout 4 was a commercial juggernaut, but not without deep flaws. Internally, Bethesda developers were frustrated by being forced to use the outdated creation engine. This tech stack, which had powered previous games, was not suited for modern graphics or physics, leading to persistent bugs and limitations. Many of the RPG elements fans loved were simplified, largely due to constraints with the engine. There were also long-standing criticisms of the voiced protagonist system, which limited dialogue options and role-playing flexibility. Even Bethesda's own modding community expressed concerns over broken systems and shallow gameplay compared to New Vegas. Fallout 4 might have sold millions, but it was a creative compromise. The swashbuckling Nathan Drake adventure was nearly derailed during development. Longtime creative director Amy Hennig departed the project midway under unclear circumstances. Some insiders claimed internal disagreements about the series' direction and pressure from Sony leadership played a role. Neil Druckmann and Bruce Straley took over and made significant changes, including cutting characters and rewriting the story. While the final product was well received, the transition caused internal conflict, with staff needing to redo years of work in a short period of time. It became one of the most expensive and stressful games Naughty Dog has ever produced. Dark Souls 3 was a fitting end to the series, but was built under time constraints due to publisher Bandai Namco's demand for a faster turnaround. Developers were already transitioning to work on Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, meaning resources were stretched thin. Fans noticed reused animations and less ambitious world design compared to Dark Souls 1. Internally, developers were reportedly dissatisfied with the pace, and some felt the game lacked the freshness it deserved as a finale. When Guerrilla Games announced Horizon Zero Dawn, it shocked the gaming world. Known primarily for linear FPS games like Killzone, the studio took a massive creative leap into open-world RPGs, something they'd never done before. Internally, Sony had major doubts. Guerrilla pitched the idea 6 times before getting the green light. Some Sony execs thought robot dinosaurs were too risky and wouldn't resonate with players. Aloy's character also faced resistance. Some early focus groups pushed back on having a female lead, and the dev team had to defend their vision repeatedly. What's more, the studio had to build new tools and AI systems from scratch to handle the complex creature behavior and massive world, essentially learning as they built. Against all odds, Horizon Zero Dawn became a breakout hit. But its success was anything but guaranteed, and came from a team who had to prove themselves every step of the way. Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Odyssey introduced strong female protagonists, but internal leaks showed Ubisoft executives initially opposed it. Cassandra, the fan-favorite lead, was almost sidelined in favor of her brother Alexios, due to the belief that female leads don't sell. This wasn't an isolated incident. Other Ubisoft titles, like Assassin's Creed Syndicate and Origins, faced similar mandates. These revelations were part of a wider wave of accusations against Ubisoft leadership for fostering a sexist work culture, which led to high-profile resignations and promised reforms. Spider-Man was a triumph for Insomniac, but controversy reared its head with Puddlegate. After a trailer showed smaller puddles in a newer build, fans accused the studio of downgrading graphics. Although developers explained it was an artistic and performance-driven change, the online harassment they received was intense. Additionally, post-launch, some modders discovered assets and dialogue suggesting cut missions and characters, including Felicia Hardy's full storyline, which may have been trimmed due to time constraints. Sony Santa Monica's reinvention of Kratos as a more nuanced, emotionally driven character was a bold risk, and nearly didn't happen. Early internal pitches were rejected, with some executives believing a father-son dynamic wouldn't resonate. Creative director Cory Barlog spoke candidly about morale issues, team burnout, and clashing visions for the game's direction. At one point, the game's future was uncertain, and Barlog had to reassess the entire concept in a desperate bid to keep it alive. The emotional intensity and cinematic quality we now praise came from a team constantly on edge, unsure if their reinvention would even make it to shelves or the PSN library. Red Dead Redemption 2 is a technical marvel, but Rockstar's cowboy epic was built with blood, sweat, and a lot of stress. Reports surfaced of developers working staggering 100-hour weeks to meet deadlines. Dan Houser, co-founder of Rockstar, initially downplayed the issue, but later acknowledged the reality of extreme overtime. Employees anonymously spoke of missing family milestones, mental health struggles, and a culture that celebrated overwork. QA testers and junior developers were reportedly treated poorly, with little credit or reward for their grueling efforts. While the game won accolades, internally it became a symbol of how toxic work conditions can be hidden behind glittering success in the gaming industry. Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, reignited the debate about difficulty in single-player video games. From Software's refusal to include difficulty options angered many, especially those with disabilities who found the game inaccessible. Some critics argued that the studio was ignoring an entire demographic of players. While fans defended the purity of the experience, accessibility advocates used Sekiro as a rallying cry for more inclusive game design. It sparked broader industry reflection, but From Software held its ground, valuing artistic vision over accessibility. Days Gone had potential for a strong franchise, but behind the scenes, its fate was sealed early. Despite strong sales, Sony declined a sequel, allegedly due to mixed reviews and internal skepticism about the IP's longevity. Creative director John Garvin publicly lashed out at critics, blaming journalists for biased reviews. He also controversially suggested that fans who didn't buy the game at full price were to blame. The fallout revealed a deep disconnect between developers, publishers, and audiences, and showcased how critical reception can outweigh commercial success in shaping a studio's future. Ghost of Tsushima was praised for its visuals and respectful tone, but not everyone agreed with its portrayal of Japanese history. Some Japanese scholars criticized the game for romanticizing the samurai era while glossing over feudal brutality. Others questioned whether a Western studio could authentically tell such a culturally specific story. While many players saw it as a tribute, some critics viewed it as cultural appropriation, especially with the lack of Japanese voices during early marketing and behind-the-scenes development. Cyberpunk 2077's launch was the poster child for overhype and underdelivery. Behind closed doors, developers were working on a game that was far from ready. CD Projekt Red executives reportedly ignored warnings from their own QA teams and pushed for a 2020 release date. The game launched with game-breaking bugs, especially on last-gen consoles. Investors filed lawsuits over false advertising, accusing CD Projekt Red of misleading them about the game's true state. Internally, the mood was described as chaotic, with features being added days before final builds. While recent updates have since improved the experience drastically, Cyberpunk's troubled launch became a case study in what happens when marketing overtakes development reality. Elden Ring is a massive open-world achievement, but its road to release wasn't easy. Internal reports and interviews revealed that the game underwent multiple reboots. Early versions lacked clarity on structure, and George R.R. Martin's involvement, while heavily marketed, was reportedly limited to lore drafts early in development. Meanwhile, female employees at From Software have come forward in recent years describing underrepresentation, limited promotion opportunities, and a male-dominated leadership structure. Despite the game's global success, these accounts suggest deep-rooted gender disparities that the studio has yet to fully address. Horizon Forbidden West aimed to top its predecessor in every way, but ambition came at a price. Because of the pandemic, much of the team had to work from home during critical development phases, leading to production delays, creative rewrites, and communication breakdowns. Internally, the story was rewritten multiple times, especially Aloy's emotional arc, which struggled to balance independence with deeper character interaction. Reports also surfaced of creative fatigue from team members who felt pressure to make every system more expansive, even when it risked bloating the experience. Despite critical praise, some fans noted the sequel's story felt less focused, and its world, though stunning, suffered from too many fetch quests and open-world fatigue. God of War Ragnarok continued the emotional arc of Kratos and Atreus, but not without complications. The pandemic delayed voice and motion capture, but to make matters worse, insiders also cited creative disagreements between senior staff. Some devs described working in limbo, unsure of which vision to follow. The pressure to match or exceed the 2018 game's acclaim led to long hours of trials, tribulations, and last-minute changes. Several senior team members quietly left after launch. Despite its huge success, with lifetime sales of 34 million at the recording of this video, Hogwarts Legacy was haunted by controversy. J.K. Rowling's polarizing public statements about trans rights led to boycotts and heated discourse. Avalanche Software tried to distance the game from Rowling, but her ownership of the Wizarding World IP made that difficult. A lead designer also left the project after old YouTube videos with controversial views resurfaced. Internally, employees were caught in the crossfire, having to balance their creative efforts with a highly politicized launch. Behind every masterpiece lies a story a studio doesn't advertise. Whether it's crunch, controversy, or creative chaos, these dark secrets remind us that even the most iconic games come with hidden costs. If any of these surprised you, drop a comment below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the world of gaming.